Okay, guys, just, our team's looking forward to coming home and playing this week. I think the important thing that our team needs to understand and the coaching staff understands, you can be prepared to play every week or you get beat. I think there's a couple examples of that last week with Pitt and Youngstown State, with Houston and Texas State, and with Memphis and UT Martin. So we've got a team coming in here. We've got to make sure we're prepared to play, and I know our guys are anxious to get back on the field today and get better.
When you talk about that, this is a coaching staff that has experience moving up to the level and knocking off a big dog. Have the state or their staff, was it Abbey State when they knocked off Michigan?
Well, they did a tremendous job at Abbey State. They're good coaches, and that was they played well last week. If you watch them against the Mars Hill team, they played with a true freshman quarterback that played extremely well, and they got athletes. So, in today's age of college football, it doesn't matter who you play. You better be prepared. And you better play your tail off, or you'll get beat. And again, I mentioned the 3 teams last week. I'm sure there was others. It's amazing in college football today is every Sunday you're going to pick up the paper and somebody's going to get beat that shouldn't. And you just got to make sure you're prepared. It's not you.
Had a freshman step in, a really good job for them last week in his first action as a collegiate quarterback.
Troy Mitchell, and he was. He's a guy that's got good. He runs around well. He throws it well enough, and he did a nice job running that offense. And App State's give people fits throughout the years, and they're doing the same thing they normally did at App State.
Don't you expect to see Eddie Sullivan quarterback?
I think so. I think Eddie was their starter prior to getting suspended, so I would guess that we'll probably see both. This kid went in and played, and they won, played extremely well. So I'm sure he'll play, but I'm sure we'll see Eddie too.
Yeah, the Judy came out today. He was listed as a 4. How do you game plan for a guy that you've seen
Well,
when you coach?
I don't think they're going to change offensively what they're doing. Whether it be Eddie or whether it be Troy. So. I think you just prepare and for what they do, and regardless of who's in there, you gotta make sure you do a great job and get them stopped.
You had any situations like this where a kid's on your team one year and then he's on an opponent the next year, or just right out of the...
I'm not sure I ever have, to be honest. So it's but I'm not sure I ever have.
The returning guys from your defense, they saw him a lot on the scout team last year. They know his tendencies probably better than anybody, really.
Yeah, well, and again, they're a little bit different offensively what they're doing, but our guys, we know his strengths, we know his weaknesses, and we'll prepare for that. But I'm sure if he'll come in, he'll play well.
You guys yesterday said it was nothing personal. When he left last year, coach, is that an odd time to leave?
Well, it's an odd time to leave, but I think our kids understand that quarterback's a little different position. What it is to be at another position, there's only one of them, and if you're not going to play. That happens throughout, all over the country. You look at guys transferring all the time, whether it be Texas or Nebraska or wherever, and because they want the opportunity to play, and I'm sure he left because of that.
What offense do they run, or did they run last week?
They're a little bit of a read. They'll run the read option. They'll run a little bit of midline. They like to get the kid out on the perimeter, and they'll run their quarterback, and they do a good job of it.
Doc, we come back this week with maybe a little more traditional look, 4 down guys and whatnot against a read option type team versus last week you had a lot of 3-man fronts and dropping those linebackers.
Yeah, we'll be a little bit more 4 down probably, and that is our base. And we had some issues last week with Aiken not being able to play that first half, and we had some injuries with Dylan and some other guys in there early, which forced us to go a little bit more 3 down stuff. But we want to get back into some 4 down. You'll see more of that.
Speaking of Dylan, what's his status?
He's fine.
Garrett Scott.
Garrett, everybody we've got that had an issue will play Saturday. So, Garrett's probably a little bit wait and see, but I think he'll end up playing. He's not near as bad as we thought he was, and Dylan's fine. Dylan's 100%. Dylan's issue was he hadn't practiced for a couple of weeks, and so, same thing with a couple of those young guys.
He looked, and that's got to be a good feeling. You watch a guy like Gage just walk in there, and you all didn't miss a beat at all come on the field. And that's what that type of injury 2 years ago would have crippled you all pretty much.
Yeah, well, we consider Gage and Jeffries and Garrett all 3 starters, and Gage and for the most part those guys played pretty daggone well. They did some good things, and I was proud of the way that offensive line played, to be honest. We threw it 54 times. I think they got to us 1 time, so they did some good things, but they're getting better. We got to get a lot better this week.
Even Cato thought he was the cause of that play, that he held it too long.
Yeah.
The clock didn't go off because he was trying to make something happen.
Right.
You had to like, though, his ability to make something happen in this game. He looked so much more confident.
Well, he did some good things, and he's a year older. I mean, you can't put a price on the experience and going through a whole year and understand the offense and all those things. Now, I felt a year ago as a freshman he did some really good things, and you've seen him grow up a little bit as a quarterback this year, and I thought he made great progress into that first game. We just have to get better every week. Offensively, I think we've got some skilled players that can make some plays, and we got to continue to get better in all three phases.
One thing it seemed like their defense was able to do consistently last week was create turnovers, and that's something that you all got to shore up this week. Make sure you don't keep them in the game for too long.
Well, there's no question. You can't turn the ball over and win. You can't. And we got to make sure. We got to make sure we don't turn it over, and then our defense has to create more turnovers. When the ball's on the ground, you got to get it, and we got to do a better job with that. And then again, of course, continue to get better in the kicking game. But I thought the kicking game we did some good things. I mean, that punter went out there for the first time, and I think we averaged 46 net, which if you do that, you may lead the country throughout the year, and that's a good thing. So we just got to build on those positives. We got to correct mistakes and get ready to roll this week.
On the missed tackles, was it more an execution problem, or was it more along the line? I mean, I know the safeties hadn't played in 2 years. You had some new faces in there, but it just seemed like there were way too many people that ran through some tackles.
No, there's no question we got to do a better job tackling, and our goal always is if you have single-digit missed tackles, you win every game you play. And of course, we weren't even close to that, and that's one area that we have to make sure we get better this week. Is we got to become a better tackling team, and we will. We will.
So more mentals and more drills. How do you overcome something?
Let me tell you. I mean, believe me, I don't make excuses for anything. But there's a lot of missed. Anytime people play Tavon Austins and those guys, there's going to be a few missed tackles now. I mean, I guarantee you, Clemson in the Orange Bowl last year had double-digit missed tackles. I promise you. And that being said, we got to tackle better, and we got to do a better job of that, and we will.
You were there for some great teams in West Virginia, just right out of the barrel on what they did last year. Where does this team rank, maybe?
I really don't. I'd rather move on to.
Yeah.
We got Western Carolina coming in here. I'd rather talk about them, but I've said all along that offensively they're a top 2 or 3 team in America. They are, and but let's move on to that. We got a game coming in here this week, and a team coming in here that we got prepared to find a way to go win.
Was there anything you bring up some of these FCS upsets this week?
Say it again.
Will you bring up some of these FCS games to your
This
game?
past week?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, if you don't prepare, you lose. And, we talked about, Sunday when we walked in here, the first thing we talked about was Houston and was it Texas State? And we talked about Memphis and UT Martin, and we talked about Pitt and Youngstown State. And, I mean, that's just 3 examples, and there's probably some other ones out there, and there'll be some examples this Sunday. You just got to make sure it isn't us, and we got to make sure we're prepared.
Anything you saw on the tape, Doc, afterwards that wasn't evident after the game that you needed to correct? What that you didn't notice during the game?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I felt coming out of that game, I knew what our issues were on defense. And I felt offensively, and again, I felt offensively we did some good things. In the kicking game, we did some good things. So we just got to shore up, we'll be fine. I mean, there's that offense is going to do that to several teams this year, and they're good. You give them credit, but we got to get better and move on.
That staff at Western is going through a lot of the similar things that you went through as a first-year coach, coming down from a rival, trying to get a program, rebuilt and back to its prominence. How difficult is that to sort of turn the tide during that first year and start righting the ship?
Well, there's a reason they're there, but they're great coaches and they do a good job. And they got some players, and they'll do a great job, and they've done a great job. I thought this team, if you look at them last year compared to the first game this year, they've made great progress already, and because they do a great job coaching them up, they're fundamentally sound, and as I mentioned before, we're going to have to be prepared. We'll have our hands full.
Have you looked at some of the series? I mean, this has been a wild series between these teams.
I'm not really concerned about what's happened in the past. I'm concerned about what's happened this Saturday, and there's no doubt that they've had some good teams in the past, and that there's been some great games. But we're focused on right now just being prepared to play on Saturday.
Was this offense kind of what you envisioned when you got yours the other day in terms of production and how you spread it around?
Yeah. Well, that was more. That was our plan from day one, and and I talk all the time about being personnel driven, and finally we're getting the pieces in place to where we can do what we want to do, and there were some glimpses of it on Saturday. I think those young tailbacks ran the ball, well at times. They showed the explosiveness that we feel they have, and I think the receivers are making some plays, and that quarterback's making good decisions and putting the ball where it belongs. So to answer your question, yes, I think the one thing I liked offensively is we ran 101 plays. We snapped it 105 times, and that was something that's one of our goals. Is we want to play fast, and we want to have a lot of snaps, and that's one thing we did accomplish was the number of plays that we ran. We want to continue to try to do that.
I think something else that I mentioned, Kayla was able to get the ball into a lot of people's hands that game.
I don't know the exact number, but I know there's a lot of guys that had catches, and was it 13 different receivers, and I think from a defensive standpoint, anytime you have that many people touching the ball in different areas, it's hard to double or bracket or a certain guy because the ball can get to somebody else. But what's encouraging about that is we were also able to run the ball a little bit, with Trayvon and the two freshmen, and that's important if you're able to stick some run the ball a little bit. That helps you as far as throwing it goes. That's for sure. Can
you explain to us how Cato is not the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week?
Probably because we got beat, would be my guess. But I don't know. I don't concern myself with that. I think I don't know. You guys can figure it out. You got a lot more time to figure it out than I do.
Doc, I thought Trayvon just from one year to the next just seemed like it really means a lot to him. Just plays extremely hard.
I thought he does, and he's finally healthy. He's for the first time since he's been here, he's got a new hip and he's got a new knee, and he's feeling good. So it's important we keep him that way. And we got some backs that can play, so we can hopefully roll those two young kids and Remy Watsons and Trayvon in there and keep getting keep a fresh back coming at them all the time. That's a good thing.
Speaking of those young running backs, the way that Kevin Green's playing with leading the team in rushing, getting the 19-yarder off the bat, do you see maybe working him in a little earlier in the game rather than just kind of?
Yeah, I think so. I think that both those kids have proven that they can make a difference, especially in space, and I can see those guys play early, and that's the great thing about with what we're trying to get done offensively. When you run 105 plays, there's snaps to get the ball in all those kids' hands, and that's what's encouraging. That's what we're trying to do offensively, because that's an extra. I think last year we averaged 65, maybe 70 snaps a game. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there's an extra 30 to 35 snaps a game that you got the opportunity to put the ball in a playmaker's hands, and that's our philosophy, and that's what we're trying to get done. And that's an extra 30 snaps that ball can get into Grooms or Butlers or Schulers or somebody's hands that a year ago it wouldn't have happened.
In increasing your snaps count by a third, what are the main cogs in allowing that to really happen? Other than, I'm guessing, the physical fitness of the team to be in.
Well, that's a key, but the other thing is the speed of the offense. I mean, we were snapping the ball, I think, with 19 to 20 to 25 seconds left on the play clock, which is a positive. The other thing is being able to move the chains. I mean, you're able to sustain drives and get first downs allows you to keep snapping the ball. So I think a combination of the speed of the offense and being able to move the chains and create first downs, those are all positives. Those are things that have to continue.
Doc, the tight ends were kind of invisible in the scrimmages out here, and I know they all played last year, but then you get to this game, and between the three of them, I think they made 11 catches for over 100 yards, and they really found their place. Do you see more of that happening as people try to take away the Dobson or Wilson, players like that?
Yeah, that's encouraging, but and those kids are all athletic and can play. It was a shame the one run Gator had shouldn't have been called back. That was a hell of a block by Tay, and that's another 50 or 60 yards that those tight ends would have had. So it's encouraging that it has to continue. But anytime you can give the ball to that many different receivers, whether it be tight ends, the two wideouts, the slots, and then you can hand it to Grooms or Butler, that gives you some, offensively some explosiveness that we haven't had in the past couple of years.
Big question mark was kicking game going in, and I know you'd like to get a little better out of the return game, but the rest of it couldn't have been much better.
Well, it can be, but you look at it from a coaching standpoint, we can get a lot better in the kicking game, but that's one phase that we basically won in that game, and we got to continue to do that throughout the year. But I thought the freshman punter went in there and did a nice job. I thought you didn't notice him, but the long snapper went in there and did a nice job, and he didn't get the Austin guy on the ground, but he forced him to bubble a couple times, and so he gives us some presence there as a missile, and then You know, our kicker went in there and kicked 2 field goals through and was 100% on his extra points. And, you know, so there were some positives. You know, unfortunately, we didn't give him the punt formation enough. We blocked 1 punt, and we had a return for 13 yards. So those are we got to get him that formation more, and we will.
Talked about the wide receiver weapons, but you just touched on something that's been kind of critical for your all's rushing attack, and that's blocking on the outside. Tay did a great job. You noticed some of those guys were getting downfield and blocking, holding those blocks, and how big is that weight room and repetition?
Well, that's huge. I mean, and Jared Parker, you know, the same way with those wideouts. If they don't block, they don't play. And they do a tremendous job on the perimeter because those guys doing a great job out there can turn a 10 or 15-yard gain into a 50-yard gain, as you saw in Gators' situation. Unfortunately, like I said, it got called back. But those guys have done a tremendous job out there. You know, Jared Parker does a great job with them, and it has to continue.
We were talking about the tight ends. Eric mentioned yesterday that he sees kind of each guy giving a different little bit of a look where CJ and Gator are kind of a little more athletic, where he's got that range and height. How important has it been, especially with the tight end core, to get each guy being a little bit different, having a little bit, you know, different things to show opposing defense?
Well, there's no question that all three of them bring a little bit different things to the table, and you got to take advantage of their strengths. And you know, and Billy does a nice job of doing that. But all three of those guys are good players, and it's you know, it's nice to see all three of them getting reps and getting in there, which they've done a nice job.
You know, mentioning Eric, the Cato's progression really showed on Saturday, especially. I mean, it seemed like he wasn't just trying to force the ball to one option. He was going through it. And how big is that from year 1 to year 2, just going through and everything slowing down and going through it?
There's no question. I mean, it's huge. And I mean, just the game experience, the knowledge of the game, and you know, he'll continue to get better as this season goes on. You know, he's a good kid that enjoys playing. He loves to play. He studies the game, and Tony's done a nice job with him. So, you know, he has to continue. As a football team, you know, we have to continue to get better in all three phases. It's important we do that starting today.
Talked a lot about Western Carolina on offense. Talked a little bit about their defense and what they've done. I know they've been struggling. They've beaten Mars Hill twice in 2 years, but what kind of looks do they throw at you?
You know, they're going to give you a little bit of 4 down to mix in some 3 down stuff. They play very aggressive. They play a lot of quarters, play some 2, a little bit of man. They mix some things up, and they did a nice job against you know, Mars Hill of changing up the fronts and the coverages, and but they play extremely hard. They did a nice job tackling against Mars Hill, and like I say, I'm sure they'll come in and be ready to play against us.
Is that something your defense has to do too? Is be a little more aggressive? Was there any being back on your heels a little bit, trying to, you know, go through and see what was thinking instead of reacting, maybe, Doc?
Well, I mean, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but those guys, you know, you look out there and we have to get better defensively. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we don't. We do. We got to tackle better. We got to play more. We got to get better in all phases of the defense. Getting lined up, tackling, swarming to the ball, the whole deal. You know, that being said, we had about 6 or 7 guys out there. That's the first game. DJ Hunter, that's the first game he's played in 3 years. You know, you got the 2 kids from secondary guys hadn't played in a year. So, you know, we're not making any excuses whatsoever. We have to get better on defense because for us to win championships, we have to play great defense, and we sure didn't do that Saturday. We got to be better today.
That was something they talked about, though. They said, you know, it's hard when you're practicing, but you're really not in game shape, and taking that pounding and getting that speed and getting adjusted to it. You can't simulate that in practice.
No, and that's an offense that, like I mentioned, again, you know, that's an offense that's going to make several defenses look bad this year, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, we didn't do a very good job on Saturday. But we got to get better, and we got to be a heck of a lot better against this Western Carolina team.
So Schuler started out in the slot on Saturday against West Virginia. Is that the guy you see going forward in that spot?
No, what we kind of do there is Booker's always a punt returner or a kick returner. So if he returns that punt or kick, we just kind of run Schuler in there, give Book a blow, and then get Book back in there. But those, you know, those 2 guys are going to split time anyway, you know, and Kelson's going to go in there and play. So, you know, we play a lot of, you know, we're going to play 3 different slots. We're going to play 6 or 8 other receivers, and we're going to run 3 or 4 tailbacks in there. So, and 3 tight ends. So, I think the one thing is you try to get done and is when you're playing at the speed we're playing at and run the number of plays we're going to play. There's no way that you know, a couple of them offensive linemen played 105 snaps. Jasper's the center played 105 snaps Saturday, and we had a couple other guys do the same, so, but those skill guys aren't gonna do that. You know, the tailbacks, the wide outs, the tight ends, we're gonna roll those guys, and it's important, if playing at the speed we play, you have to be able to do that.
Have you adjusted the new kickoff rules? I know Doug doesn't like them, but, what do you think?
Why don't you like them, Doug? No, I don't know. You know, it is what it is. I mean, you know, I don't, you know, everybody's got the same rule. I don't know how it's changed things other than, I don't really know that it's changed things at all. There's a few more touchbacks, you know, but I don't know that it's changed anything.
I take it Jasper's getting a whole bunch of snaps. Do you see Cameron Dees
Yes.
coming in soon?
Yes, yes. I think you'll see a lot of Cam D's on Saturday. He's going to be a good player. I like him.
You're hoping to get a little more time for Blake Pronansel too, maybe Saturday, if the game allows.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do, we got to do what we got to do to win the football game. I'd like to see him play more, sure, but we'll do what we got to do.
Says a lot about Chris and, you know, coming back from what he's been through to go out there and battle like that.
Chris.
Jaspers.
Oh, yeah, yeah, he's done a nice job, and he did a great job in the offseason. He handled it. I thought he handled it well.
What did you see that you liked from Martin on Saturday?
Say it again?
What did you see that you liked from Martin on Saturday?
Well, we've got Martin in there. Of course, he's playing, you know, plays on our punt team. He plays on our kickoff return team. He's our big back when we go to our 21 personnel, and you know, he did some good things in the short yardage situations, and that'll be his role as we move forward.
We're familiar with the I formation too. Is that something you plan to use a little bit more as the season goes on?
Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's, you know, it's something that if we get in short yard, you know, we like to mix our personnel groupings, that being one of them. So we'll just kind of see what they give us defensively, and if it lends itself to our 21 or 22 personnel, which is our big personnel with a full team, we'll do that.
So your long-term injury cases, we've talked about Tron, Daryl Roberts kind of changed.
Joe Roberts doing a nice job, and I don't want to give you guys, I don't know if there's a timetable with him, but I would say that he's got a great shot at getting back within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and same thing with Rouse. So we got a couple guys there we're hoping.
Billy Mitchell?
I don't know about Billy Mitchell. Don't know.
The Tron status is still the same.
Still up in the air, yeah. Still up in the air. Anything else? Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.